Is intermittent fasting something you played with, or is it something that you have, kind of on the shelf maybe to try out at one point or another?
Yeah, I intermittent fasting is interesting because there's a lot of different approaches to intermittent fasting. So it's like when you say intermittent fasting, do you mean like you stop eating at 8 and you don't eat again until 12 the next day?
Exactly. I think there's a lot of different terms that kind of look at it from different angles. You can talk about having a specific eating window. So it might be
Yeah.
again from noon to 8 p.m. or whatever that is. Again, this is all individual and people, at different times of their life, being male, female, you have to look at your unique situation and decide if it's right for you at all. And if it is, what that right timeline is. And I think you need to build
Right.
up to as well. I don't think you just jump into a 6 hour eating window or something like that right off the bat. But for me, yeah, it's more a typical day for me during the week. Weekends is when I typically relax about it, but I'll do stop eating after dinner and then usually eat around 11 or noon the next day. So that window would be maybe about noon to 6:30 p.m. that I would eat in. And
Right.
so I guess you can talk about it from the angle of when are you eating or when are you not eating. So it's like two sides of the same coin kind of thing.
For sure. It's interesting because, like, I do a version, I don't call what I do intermittent fasting, but I do like a lot of the basic theories with keto or, hunter gatherer diet, whatever you want to call it. And to me, I've done a ton of research about this. And I love it. Again, like when keto was like everywhere, you couldn't help, you had to learn about it. So for me, what I've kind of boiled down the basic nugget is, and please correct me, but if I'm wrong, this is just what I've deduced, is that it's all about insulin. So from my research and my study and myself, like as example, there was a long period of time for years where we were told eat 6 small meals throughout the day and that's how you're going to stay lean. Dude, I could not lose weight eating 6 times a day. I was struggling so much with my weight. And I'm like, I'm I'm doing what they're telling me to do. Like I'm reading, and multiple books say to eat 6 times a day. 6 small meals, you hear that. Like the worst for my body. For me, because my insulin was constantly spiking. I mean, even when you think about food, your insulin spikes. And from my research and what happens with my body is like, you can't really gain fat without insulin, right? They're like together, you know what I mean? That's why unfortunately, a lot of diabetics struggle with their weight because they have excess insulin. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, because I have friends who struggle with it and it's awful. But insulin is like, to me, what I've deduced, that's like the key. So when I keep my insulin levels low, when I try to eat a lot of foods that are low, low on the glycemic index, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I'll eat, desserts and this and that, whatever. But what I do is I do a version of intermittent fasting where I don't snack anymore. Snacking to me is like the enemy. But again, this is where I'm at now. Like when you're pregnant or breastfeeding or whatever, all this goes out the window. And certain things like when I'm directing and I'm on a set for 16 hours, like I have to snack. Like I need to keep, you know what I'm saying? Like you have to. But in general, my general schedule with eating now that I found to be successful is I eat breakfast a little bit later, like you. I eat breakfast late, and then I don't eat anything for 5 hours. I try so hard to get to 5 hours. Usually around 4 hours, 4.5 hours, my stomach is like pretty rumbly. And then I'll eat lunch. But when I eat, I'm not measuring out like 500 calories. I eat like a good meal with like fat, protein, carbs. I eat like a really good meal till I'm satiated. And then I eat dinner 5 hours later. And then after dinner, I don't eat anymore until the next whatever. But I find that having those hours in between my meals without snacking at all, that is what I found is the key. And what I figured out is like, oh, my insulin levels are low for all that time. And then I can eat a really good meal and then my insulin levels are low again. And then I eat a really good meal and then they're low again. That's what I found currently that's working, where I can still go on date nights with my husband and enjoy a meal, drink wine, like whatever. Obviously within moderation, you can't be crazy, and I eat healthy in general. But I found that the hours between meals, keeping my insulin low has really been successful for me. And I think it's a form of intermittent fasting, because when you do all this research on keto and hunter gatherer, they always talk about insulin.
I 100% agree with everything you said. I think
Oh,
you're
good.
onto a lot of great stuff there. And I mean, again, this is just where I'm at, and with my knowledge
Right.
base too. There's a lot of people I'm sure would say differently, but your current mindset is very in line with the way I eat and the way I think about it.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, it's for me, again, this is after so much trial and error. I mean, Jesse, I've done every diet. I was on this cracker diet, which was awful. And you only eat a certain amount of calories a day and you can have a little bit of crackers. And I remember being so hungry. We were at the Golden Globes for Orange, and I had this gorgeous long dress, and I was so hungry that I snuck into the bathroom stall with like my dress train. It was like stuffed into the bathroom stall, and I'm in there like eating my crackers because I was so hungry, and I didn't want people to like be like, what is this girl doing eating crackers? So I'm literally stuffed into the stall with my gown all smushed in there, and I'm like in there like eating crackers because I'm so hungry. Another time I'm like on this crazy like cabbage cleanse, and I go to this really fancy restaurant with these producers, and I had to bring my own food because I was like weighing it and doing all that stuff. They made a whole big stink about it. They wouldn't let me eat food from outside in this restaurant. And by the time you need to eat when you're on a diet, like you need to eat or you are not, is not good. So, and I remember being with these producers and I like couldn't eat my meal and it was so embarrassing. And it was just so many food things. I mean, I injected myself with HCG and ate 500 calories a day. Like I did everything because I was so desperate to lose weight because I had these core body issues that I hadn't figured out yet in terms of this crazy inflammation and eating the 6 meals a day, which you think is the right thing to do. But for me, it was the absolute wrong thing to do. And when I really started researching insulin, everything changed for me. And then medicine, like food is medicine. That was also a big thing for me.